Why did the Buddha's lineage become extinct? Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Podcast. Did our Blessed One commit an act of unfilial conduct when, despite his supernatural powers, he did not intervene to save his family from being massacred by King Virudaka? What is the truth behind this story? Let's explore it in today's video. During the time when the Buddha was still in this world, the kingdom of Kapilavastu, governed by his father King Suddhodana, was very prosperous. The princess of this kingdom was renowned for her exceptional beauty. At that time, the neighboring kingdom, ruled by King Pasenadi, deeply admired the women of the Shakya clan and expressed a desire to marry a Shakya princess to maintain peaceful relations between the two kingdoms. This proposal was impossible to refuse. However, Queen Mahanama, out of love for her daughter, sent the daughter of a maidservant instead. The king, unaware of this, welcomed her warmly, and they had a prince named Virudaka. When Prince Virudaka was 17, his father King Pasenadi and his mother Queen Malika agreed to let him visit his maternal hometown of Kapilavastu, the Shakya kingdom. He experienced genuine warmth and tranquility there. However, upon interacting with members of the royal family, Prince Virudaka sensed an underlying insincerity in their smiles and greetings. His sharp perception made him aware of the uncomfortable, guarded expressions of the royal relatives. During this visit, Prince Virudaka uncovered a horrifying truth. His mother, Queen Malika, was originally a slave. Because of this, members of the Shakya clan looked down upon him, calling him the son of a slave woman. This discovery filled him with intense anger and resentment. He told his attendant, Kshudraka, "The Shakya clan has humiliated me in this way. If I inherit the throne one day, remind me of this so that I may exact revenge." From that point on, every day, Kshudraka reminded the prince 3 times to remember the humiliation from the Shakya clan. When he eventually ascended to the throne, he still held on to that deep grudge and was determined to lead his army to attack Kapilavastu to avenge that shame. Hearing this terrible news, the monks informed the Buddha. The Buddha went to sit under a barren tree by the roadside, on the path that King Virudaka would take. From a distance, seeing the Buddha, whom he greatly respected, King Virudaka approached and asked, "There are trees with lush green branches, like the Nikula tree. Why did you not sit under those trees, but instead chose this barren tree?" The Buddha replied, "The shade of one's lineage surpasses the shade of any external tree," subtly honoring the Shakya clan, to which King Virudaka was related by marriage, but did not belong. Understanding the Buddha's meaning, King Virudaka turned back and did not attack Kapilavastu. However, as his resentment had not fully subsided, King Virudaka secretly ordered his soldiers to monitor the Buddha's whereabouts. Upon hearing that the Buddha had returned to Jetavana Monastery, King Virudaka quickly deployed his troops. But when they reached the border, they encountered the Buddha again, so he returned. Persistent in his desire, he prepared his troops 4 times, but on the 4th attempt, the Buddha was no longer there. King Virudaka immediately led his army in a fierce assault on Kapilavastu, like a storm. At that time, Mahamoggallana, the foremost disciple in supernatural powers, requested permission from the Buddha to use his powers to save the Shakya clan by relocating Gautam to another region to escape the massacre. The Buddha responded, "Can you alter the karmic ties of the Shakya clan from past lives?" Karmic ties refer to connections and outcomes determined from previous lives. In the end, King Virudaka entered the city and slaughtered the Shakya clan. Although Mahamoggallana had been advised by the Buddha that karmic ties were unalterable, he was so anxious that he used his powers to place 500 members of the Shakya clan inside his alms bowl. However, after the battle, when he opened the bowl, he found that the 500 members of the Shakya clan had turned into blood. At that moment, he understood that when it comes to karmic ties, even supernatural powers cannot intervene. Immediately afterward, the Buddha informed the monks that King Virudaka and his soldiers would not remain in this world much longer. Within 7 days, they would all be destroyed, as they must bear the karmic retribution for their own deeds. Upon hearing the Buddha's prophecy about karmic retribution, King Virudaka was fearful and concerned, ordering his ministers to observe whether any external threats, such as thieves, rebels, or natural disasters, might pose a danger. The ministers assured him that there were no such threats. Shudraka, the Brahmin advisor, reassured the king, advising him to relax and enjoy himself, dismissing any concern. However, the queen deeply trusted the Buddha's words and counted each day with growing fear. By the morning of the seventh day, when nothing had happened, the king was greatly relieved. Unable to contain his excitement, he led his consorts to the banks of the Asiravati River for a celebration and rested there. Unexpectedly, at midnight, dark clouds gathered, a strong wind arose, and heavy rain began to pour. They couldn't escape in time, and everyone was swept away by the flood, perishing and descending into the Avicii hell. The king's family members who stayed behind in the palace that night were struck by lightning, and the entire palace was set ablaze. Seeing the tragic destruction of the Shakya clan, the monks questioned the Buddha about karmic ties. The Buddha then explained, "Long ago, there was a fishing village in the city of Sravasti. The people of this village lived in extreme poverty and had to eat tree roots. A measure of gold would only yield a measure of rice. In this village, there was a pond filled with fish. The villagers all went there to catch fish to eat. In the pond, there were two species of fish, one called Kauthala and the other called Dvilakshana. Seeing their kin being captured and eaten, the leader of these fish said to one another, 'We have done no harm to these people. They live on land while we live in water. But these people are devouring us. If we have any merits in a future life, we will use them to seek vengeance.' At that time, there was an 8-year-old boy in the village who did not fish or kill, but he delighted in seeing others catch and kill the fish, rejoicing when he saw the dead fish on the shore. The Buddha concluded, 'Know this, monks. Do not think that the people of that fishing village were anyone else. Today they are reborn as members of the Shakya clan. The Kauthala fish has become King Varudaka, and the Dvilakshana fish has become Shudraka, the Brahmin advisor. Suffering arises when one rejoices in the death of others. The boy who was delighted at seeing the dead fish on the shore back then is now me. The Shakya clan members were the villagers who ate the fish. Because of this karmic connection, they were condemned to suffer in hell for countless lifetimes, enduring retribution. I, who once laughed and found joy in seeing the dead fish, now bear the karmic consequence of intense headaches, as though my head were being crushed by a mountain like Mount Sumeru. The Buddha, having attained enlightenment, could see the vast expanse of the 3,000 great thousand worlds. Could he not protect his own relatives? However, many beings, during the cycles of reincarnation, have committed wrongs and accumulated karmic debts. No matter how much time passes, how many lives are reincarnated, karmic force remains inseparable from those who created it. When the karmic retribution arrives, one must repay it, whether they want to or not. Good or evil deeds always have consequences, a universal truth that is unchangeable. Even Venerable Mahamoggallana, with his great supernatural powers, could not dissolve the complex karmic ties between people. Think back to ancient Rome when Jesus was condemned. How many Jews eagerly shouted, "Crucify him!" When Christian believers were thrown into the arena to be torn apart by lions and wild animals, how many spectators sat there cheering with excitement? The wicked Emperor Nero ordered that Christians be wrapped in straw and set alight to illuminate his garden. Although the Jews did not directly kill Jesus, and the spectators in the arena did not themselves kill the believers, and Roman nobles did not personally kill Christians, their indifference and silence in the face of oppression would still bring consequences. Due to the persecution of the true faith, the mighty ancient Roman Empire faced punishment, suffering 4 devastating plagues. During the second plague, 1/3 of the empire's population died, and half the population of Constantinople perished in the third plague. In the region where Jesus was persecuted, the Jewish people endured a long period of exile, scattered across the world for 1,800 years. In ancient Chinese history, there were emperors who opposed and persecuted Buddhism, resulting in 4 major catastrophes known as the 3 Wus and 1 Zong persecution of Buddhism. The karmic consequences were so tragic that they filled people with fear. The first instance was during the Northern and Southern dynasties with Emperor Taiwu, the 3rd emperor of the Northern Wei dynasty. He led his army on horseback to unify the northern territories. At that time, Buddhism was flourishing, with many people becoming monks. In 438, Emperor Taiwu issued a decree ordering monks under 50 years old to return to secular life to increase the number of soldiers for the war effort. In 444, he denounced Buddhism as superstition and issued a decree expelling monks and nuns from temples. In 446, influenced by the advice of his trusted minister Kui Hao, Emperor Taiwu enacted the most severe suppression of Buddhism. He ordered the destruction and burning of Buddha statues, the burning of Buddhist scriptures, the demolition of temples, and the execution of monks by burial. The Crown Prince, a devout believer in Buddhism, repeatedly pleaded with the emperor to delay these orders, allowing some monks to escape. However, this reprieve did not last long. Emperor Taiwu resumed the destruction, tearing down pagodas and melting Buddha statues to mint coins, burning Buddhist texts and killing monks and nuns across the nation. People lived in constant fear. This may be explained by the principle that heaven will destroy what it first drives mad. Ignoring the pleas of friends, Emperor Taiwu became increasingly fanatical in his campaign against Buddhism, ultimately leading to a tragic end. Kui Hao, who was Han Chinese, believed he had achieved great merit and held contempt for the noble Tuoba clan. He spent large sums of money to compile books and national records to showcase his fame, angering those in power. In 450, the elderly official, who had served through 3 dynasties, was executed along with his entire family after enduring brutal and humiliating torture, his cries echoing to the heavens. At that time, people said this was the retribution for his persecution of Buddhism. 2 years later, Emperor Taiwu, in the prime of his life at 44, was assassinated by a eunuch. Both of his sons, the Crown Prince and another royal son, were subsequently killed by the same eunuch. In 452, Emperor Wencheng ascended the throne and worked hard to rectify his grandfather Emperor Taiwu's errors. Wencheng revived Buddhism, commissioning the creation of the Yungang grottos with many intricately carved Buddha statues. From that point onward, the nation enjoyed peace and stability, and the people lived in security. The second persecution. During the northern and southern dynasties, Emperor Wu of the northern Zhou dynasty was a brave and powerful ruler. At the age of 32, he personally led campaigns and conquered the northern Qi. By the age of 34, he had unified the northern territories once again. He boldly declared that he was unafraid of going to hell, and after defeating northern Qi, he issued a decree banning Buddhism and Taoism. He ordered the destruction of 40,000 temples and shrines, converting them into residences and eradicating traces of Buddhism. Additionally, he forced 3 million monks and nuns to return to secular life, leaving almost no trace of Buddhism in the northern regions. In June of the following year, Emperor Wu mobilized a large army to attack the Tujue. However, at the age of 35, he suddenly fell gravely ill and died. The calamities did not stop there. After Emperor Wu's death, his son, Crown Prince Yuanyun, ascended the throne at the age of 19. Known for his cruelty and indulgence, he abdicated within a year in favor of his 6-year-old son, while he himself indulged in pleasure in the inner court. 3 years later, he died of illness. When his son ascended the throne, power fell into the hands of his maternal grandfather, Yang Jian. In 581, Yang Jian abolished the northern Zhou dynasty and established the Sui dynasty. Within 2 years, Yang Jian exterminated 43 families of the Yuan royal lineage, effectively wiping out the Yuan clan. The third persecution, Zhou Shizong, Chairong, known as a highly skilled and capable ruler and regarded as the greatest enlightened ruler of the 5 dynasties period, made comprehensive reforms and expanded his territory, winning every battle. However, he ultimately failed in his endeavors and died young at only 39 years old. His short life appeared to be mere coincidence, but historical records reveal otherwise. In the second year of his reign, in May 955, Zhou Shizong issued a decree to destroy all Buddhist temples throughout the country, sparing only those with inscriptions by the emperor himself, allowing just 1 temple per county. A total of 30,360 temples were demolished, and Buddha statues were melted down to mint coins. Nearly 100,000 monks and nuns were forced to return to secular life. During this time of flourishing Buddhism, many were hesitant to destroy Buddha statues. Chairong brazenly declared, "Buddha is Buddha, and statues are merely statues." Even the flesh on my body can be given away. Buddha would surely approve of statues being melted down to mint coins. In Zhengzhou, a large bronze statue of Guanyin Bodhisattva, known for its miraculous powers, stood in the Great Compassion Temple. Those who attempted to destroy this statue suffered self-inflicted injuries, severing their hands and even dying. Nobody dared to strike the statue. In response, Chai Rong personally took a large axe and struck the statue's chest, initiating his campaign against Buddhism. Later, Zhou Shizong asked Wang Fa, a sage knowledgeable in astrology, "How many more years can I live?" Wang Fa replied, "After the age of 30, I cannot predict." Misunderstanding this as meaning he had another 30 years to live, Chai Rong was overjoyed. In 959, Chai Rong sought to reclaim the 16 prefectures of Yanyun and led his army to attack Yuzhou. When his carriage reached Chao Pass, he stood on high ground, looked down, and asked a local villager who was offering food and wine, "What is the name of this place?" The villager replied, "For generations this place has been called Sick Dragon Terrace, referring to a dragon afflicted with illness." Upon hearing this, Chai Rong immediately mounted his horse and returned. That same day, he developed a festering sore on his chest. Not long afterward, the wound worsened, spreading and rotting, ultimately leading to his death. People at the time whispered that this was karmic retribution for striking the chest of a Buddha statue. His 5-year-old son ascended the throne, but within a year lost the kingdom to General Zhao Kuangyin, resulting in the fall of their dynasty. The fourth persecution Emperor Wuzong of the Tang dynasty, Li Yan, was a devout follower of Taoism. After ascending the throne at 26, he increasingly favored Taoism. In August of the 5th year of the Huichang era, after preparing all necessary conditions, Emperor Wuzong launched a nationwide campaign to eradicate Buddhism. He issued a decree demanding the destruction of all Buddhist temples. All bronze statues, bells, and bronze items in temples were to be handed over to government officials for minting coins, and iron items were given to local authorities to be melted down into farming tools. The decree specified the demolition of over 4,600 temples, more than 40,000 smaller shrines, and the burning of a large quantity of Buddhist scriptures. Over 260,000 monks and nuns were forced to return to secular life. Monks from India, Korea, and Japan were also not spared. Furthermore, foreign religions like Islam and Manichaeism were subjected to similar persecution, with their temples and Ni texts burned and their clergy left without shelter, causing some to commit suicide. Historians refer to this period as the Huichang persecution of Buddhism. Although the Tang dynasty was a time when Buddhism flourished, following the dynasty's decline, Buddhism remained deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Emperor Wuzong's persecution led to widespread resentment, and the previously stable society fell into decline, with people's cries of suffering heard everywhere. Not long after, Emperor Wuzong suddenly fell ill and died young at the age of only 33. Through these stories, we see that karma is truly fair and precise. Everything in life has its cause. If we plant seeds of evil, we will suffer painful retribution. If we plant seeds of kindness, we will receive positive and peaceful results. May you all soon achieve enlightenment on your spiritual path. See you in the next video.